The security alert vibrated against my hip, but it was the thumbnail preview that stole my breath. Unfamiliar balloons were floating across my kitchen ceiling. I expanded the notification with shaking fingers, sound flooding through my phone's speaker. Laughter, clinking glasses, and my brother's unmistakable voice declaring a toast. To new beginnings in our perfect home. The camera feed showed what should have been impossible. My brother Owen standing in my living room, champagne flute raised high, surrounded by nodding relatives and cheering children. They ran wild across the hardwood floors I'd paid to have refinished just last week. My sister-in-law Heather perched on my kitchen island, wine glass dangling from manicured fingers, looking like she belonged there. In a home no one should have known I owned, a home no one had keys to except me. A home I'd equipped with a comprehensive security system just 2 days ago, complete with motion-activated cameras and smartphone alerts. My name is Rachel. I'm 32 and a financial analyst. This is the story of how I reclaimed what was stolen without losing myself in the process. 5 years of overtime, selling my car, canceling vacations, taking on consulting work on weekends, all of it distilled into the deed tucked safely in my glove compartment. The lakeside property had been my silent obsession, my secret project. I'd closed on it 3 days ago without telling a soul, wanting the satisfaction of revealing it on my own terms, at my own moment. Yet somehow, they'd found out. Somehow, they were inside. I pressed my back against my office wall and slid to the floor, the world narrowing to the screen in my hands. The neighbor who'd texted the alert hadn't exaggerated. This wasn't just trespassing. This was claiming. "We deserve this upgrade," Owen continued, his voice carrying through the speaker. "After years of struggling while others had it easy." Others had it easy? My jaw clenched so tightly I tasted metal. I'd worked 70-hour weeks while Owen bounced between jobs, complained about his bad luck, and borrowed money he never returned. Yet our parents always praised his ambition, while treating my stable career as somehow less impressive. I watched him gesture expansively around my living room, the room where I'd planned to finally build the life I'd sacrificed for, the room I hadn't even slept in yet. My finger hovered over the emergency contacts. Then, with a clarity that felt almost serene, I dialed the police instead. "This is Rachel Bennett. I own a home on Willowbrook Lane. There are people inside who shouldn't be there." "Do you know these individuals?" the dispatcher asked. I watched my brother's smug smile as he accepted congratulations from relatives. "Unfortunately," I said, my voice steadier than I expected, "I know them very well." The drive to my house, took 19 minutes. I left my office immediately, property documents already in my work bag where I'd kept them since closing. I parked across the street, positioning my car where I could see both my phone screen and the front of the house. I watched as police cruisers pulled into the driveway, their lights painting the pristine white exterior in alternating red and blue. Through my phone, I watched the panicked scramble inside. Heather hurriedly hiding wine glasses, Owen straightening his shirt, children being ushered upstairs. When Owen opened the door, his practiced smile was already in place. The same smile he'd used since childhood when caught taking something that wasn't his. "Evening, officers. Is something wrong?" "We received a report of unauthorized individuals on the premises," one officer said. "May I ask who owns this property?" Owen's posture shifted subtly, his chin lifting. "This is our new family home. We just closed on it." The lie slid from his lips so effortlessly it almost sounded true. Almost. I stepped from my car, clutching the folder containing every document. The mortgage approval showing only my name, the wire transfer receipts, the deed with my signature still crisp on the final page. The night air carried the scent of the lake as I walked up the driveway, gravel crunching beneath my feet. Owen's expression transformed when he saw me. Surprise, then irritation, then a flicker of something darker before he composed himself. "Rachel," he forced a laugh, "what are you doing here?" I handed the folder to the closest officer. "This is my house. I closed on it 3 days ago. They broke in." The officer examined the paperwork while his partner kept his attention on Owen, whose smile had become rigid. "These documents confirm Ms. Bennett as the legal owner. the officer said, returning the folder to me. Sir, unless you can provide proof of ownership, you'll need to leave immediately. Heather appeared in the doorway, her voice sharp. This is ridiculous. Owen, tell them. There must be some mistake, Owen said, his charm fraying at the edges. Our parents helped us with this purchase. Rachel must be confused. The documents are quite clear, the officer replied. Ma'am, would you like us to issue a trespass warning? I looked past Owen into the house I'd sacrificed everything for. Balloons with new home printed on them drifted against the ceiling. A banner hung across the fireplace. Congratulations, Farrell family. My family name, but not their home. Yes, I said, the word quiet but firm, and I want it documented. Owen's eyes narrowed, all pretense evaporating. You're making a mistake, he hissed. Family sticks together. Exactly, I replied. So why are you in my house? What followed was organized chaos. The officers escorting everyone out, children crying in confusion, Heather shooting venomous glares, relatives shuffling past with embarrassed mumbles. Through it all, Owen maintained eye contact, his expression promising this wasn't over. When they were gone and the police had filed their report, I stood alone in my kitchen. Dirty glasses cluttered the counter, cake crumbs scattered across the island. A child's drawing taped to the refrigerator depicted a house with 4 stick figures labeled, Our New Home. I ripped it down, my hands trembling not from fear, but from a white-hot clarity. This wasn't just about today. This was about a lifetime of boundaries crossed, achievements minimized, and sacrifices unacknowledged. I opened every window in the house, letting the cool night air purge any trace of their presumption. This home would be my line in the sand, and this time, I wouldn't let anyone cross it. The backlash started at 8:43 the next morning. My phone vibrated with notifications as I stood on my back deck, watching mist rise from the lake. Mom, what have you done? Your brother is devastated. Dad, call us immediately. This family situation needs to be resolved. Aunt Vivian, shame on you for embarrassing your brother like this. Cousin Mark, not cool making a scene with the cops. Owen said you've gone off the deep end. The family narrative was already being rewritten, with me cast as the villain. A familiar role, but this time the script was different. This time, I had proof. I scrolled past the messages and opened my email, sending the security footage to my lawyer, along with the police report. Then I silenced my phone and watched a heron glide across the water, its reflection perfect in the still surface. By noon, I'd received 17 more messages and 6 voicemails. I ignored them all, instead focusing on unpacking boxes in what was undeniably my home. With each item I placed, books on shelves, dishes in cabinets, clothes in closets, I reclaimed another inch of territory. The doorbell rang at 3:17. My parents stood on the porch, their expressions a practiced blend of disappointment and concern. Rachel, Mom said, attempting to step inside. I blocked the entrance. You can talk to me from there. Dad's face reddened. This isn't how we raised you to treat family. Interesting definition of family, I replied. Does it include breaking into someone's home and claiming it as your own? Your brother made a mistake, Mom said, her voice dropping to the soothing tone she'd always used when explaining away Owen's actions. He was just excited. They've been struggling so much with that tiny apartment, and when he heard about this beautiful place... How exactly did he hear about it? I interrupted. I told no one. They exchanged glances. The real estate agent is Cousin Jennifer's friend, Dad admitted. She mentioned you'd bought a lakeside property. Professional ethics violated. Family boundaries crossed. Typical. Owen thought it would be a wonderful surprise, Mom continued, to help furnish it to make it a proper family gathering place. By breaking in and throwing a party claiming it was his? Dad's patience visibly thinned. The point is, this house is much too big for just you. Owen has a family, 3 children. It makes more sense. No, I said, the word like a door closing. What makes sense is respecting ownership. What makes sense is acknowledging that I worked for this. What makes sense is leaving now and telling Owen that if he comes near my property again, I'll press charges for breaking and entering. Mom gasped. You wouldn't. I met her gaze steadily. I already have the paperwork ready. They left with threats of family meetings and promises that this isn't over. I locked the door behind them, my heart pounding but my resolve stronger than ever. That evening, I received a text from Owen. "We need to talk like adults. Meet me at Riverside Cafe tomorrow, 1 p.m. I considered ignoring it, but confrontation delayed was merely confrontation postponed. Better to end this cleanly. I'll be there. The cafe bustled with lunch crowds when I arrived the next day. Owen sat at a corner table, dressed in the tailored shirt and polished smile he wore for important negotiations. I recognized the setup immediately. Public location to prevent a scene, casual environment to suggest reasonableness. "Rachel," he stood, gesturing to the chair opposite him. "Thanks for coming." I remained standing. "What do you want, Owen?" "Please sit. I've ordered your favorite, lemon tart and Earl Grey." The same tactic he'd used since childhood, small gestures to distract from larger transgressions. I sat but pushed the plate aside. "You have 10 minutes." His smile flickered. "Look, things got out of hand. I admit that. But you have to understand our situation. The kids need space to grow. Heather deserves a nice home after supporting me through everything. When I heard you'd bought that place alone, without even discussing it with family. Why would I discuss my personal financial decisions with you?" "Because we're family," he said, as if explaining something obvious. "Family shares. Family supports each other. Like when you shared that you were planning to claim my house as your own? Like when you supported my career by telling everyone at Thanksgiving that anyone could push numbers around?" He waved dismissively. "Ancient history. We're talking about now, about a solution that works for everyone." "There already is one. I own the house. You don't." Owen leaned forward, lowering his voice. "Mom and Dad think we should share it. They've always taught us to share." "Share what's yours, not take what isn't," I countered. His expression hardened. "They're prepared to help me legally. Did you know there are family property precedents? That verbal agreements about shared family assets can be binding?" I almost laughed. "There are no verbal agreements. There are security recordings of you breaking in and falsely claiming ownership. There's a police report. There's a deed with only my name on it." "It will get ugly," he warned. "Family gatherings, holidays, Mom and Dad's anniversary. Do you really want to be the one who divided everyone?" The familiar weight of family expectation pressed down. The assumption that I would yield, accommodate, sacrifice. That piece was my responsibility, never his. I stood, placing my hands flat on the table. "Owen, let me be absolutely clear. That house is mine. Not yours, not ours, mine. If you try to take it through manipulation, legal threats, or another break-in, I will respond with every document, recording, and legal option available to me. This isn't a negotiation." His mask slipped, showing the entitlement beneath. "You've always been selfish. Always had to prove you're better than everyone. Well, congratulations. You've proven you're willing to hurt your own family for bricks and mortar." I felt a strange calm descend. "No, Owen. I've proven I'm willing to protect what's mine from someone who never learned the difference between ours and yours." As I walked away, he called after me. "You'll regret this when you're all alone in that big empty house." I didn't turn back. For the first time in our shared history, I wasn't the one who would be living with regret. The escalation was predictable. Within days, social media filled with carefully crafted posts. Owen and Heather with their children squeezed into their apartment, captions lamenting how some people hoard space while families struggle. Relatives commented with supportive outrage. Friends I hadn't spoken to in years messaged asking why I was being so difficult about sharing. The narrative spread like carefully directed wildfire. I documented everything: screenshots, messages, the increasingly hostile voicemails. My lawyer nodded grimly as I forwarded each piece of evidence. "They're building a case for emotional pressure," she explained, "but they have no legal standing. The property is unquestionably yours." I filed for a restraining order when Owen's car appeared in my driveway 3 nights in a row, idling for exactly 17 minutes before driving away. The judge granted it immediately upon reviewing the pattern of behavior, and the sheriff's office served Owen with the paperwork the following day. The family response was nuclear. Invitations to my cousin's wedding were rescinded. My mother called in tears, claiming I was destroying this family over a house. My father's message was shorter. Your grandfather would be ashamed. Perhaps he would be. Or perhaps he'd recognize the same pattern he'd warned me about when I was 12, after Owen had claimed credit for a science project I'd built. Some people believe they're entitled to the fruits of others' labor. Don't let them convince you that their entitlement is more important than your work. I hung his words, framed in my entryway. 1 month after the break-in, I hosted a housewarming. Not for family, but for the colleagues who'd covered my shifts when I worked overtime, the friends who'd encouraged my savings plan, the neighbor who'd alerted me to the intrusion, people who understood the value of boundaries. As they filled my home with genuine congratulations and thoughtful gifts, I realized something profound. Family isn't defined by shared DNA, but by shared respect. That evening, after everyone had left, I sat on my deck watching fireflies dance over the lake. My phone buzzed with a text from a number I didn't recognize. I told Owen what he did was wrong. Not everyone in the family agrees with him. Congratulations on your beautiful home, Cousin Diane. I saved the number, grateful for the small bridge in what had become a family divided by my refusal to yield. I later learned she'd gotten my number from a mutual friend after her previous messages, through family channels, had been blocked. It wasn't reconciliation with everyone. It wasn't the fairy tale ending where my brother acknowledged his wrongs, and the family united in understanding. It was something more valuable, proof that standing firm didn't mean standing alone. 2 months later, I received official notice that Owen and Heather had purchased a home across town, smaller than mine, but within their actual budget. The social media campaign quietly disappeared. Family gatherings remained tense, with some relatives still treating me as the villain of the story. I filed a formal complaint against the real estate agent who had disclosed my confidential purchase to Cousin Jennifer. The state licensing board issued her a formal reprimand and fine for ethics violations. As for my parents, we established a fragile peace built on clear boundaries. They now call before visiting and have stopped bringing up sharing the house. Christmas was spent at separate tables, mine filled with chosen family, theirs with those who still believed Owen's version. The divide was painful but necessary, a price paid for self-respect that I would willingly pay again. But the key fact remained unchanged. When I turned the lock each night, I entered a space that was unquestionably mine, a space I'd earned through work, protected through resolve, and filled with a life built on my own terms. The security system still sends alerts to my phone. But now, the only people who cross my threshold are those who understand that respect isn't optional. It's the foundation on which everything else is built. Some boundaries, once drawn, should never be erased. Some lessons, once taught, change every relationship that follows. And some victories aren't about winning against others, but about finally standing firmly for yourself. Before you go, here's a quick bonus for sticking around. If you love learning and growing like I do, you need to try audiobooks. I've got an exclusive deal with Audible. Your first month is completely free. That's access to over 500,000 titles. Zero cost to you. All the details are waiting in the description. Don't miss this one. The sound of the slap reverberated through the reception hall like a gunshot. 200 conversations halted mid-sentence. The string quartet's melody fractured into silence. My carefully applied makeup couldn't hide the scarlet handprint blooming across my cheek as I tasted copper where my lip had split against my teeth. "You selfish little brat," my father hissed, his face contorted with rage, champagne fumes thick on his breath. "After everything we've done for you—" I watched the scene as if floating above it, the shocked wedding guests in their finery. My mother's mortified expression focused more on the spectacle than my injury. And most revealing, my brother Noel's satisfied smirk from the head table. His new wife, Grace's eyes gleamed with triumph beside him. "My name is Victoria. I'm 29 and a software developer. This is the story of how I turned public humiliation into perfect freedom. The penthouse they wanted me to surrender was my sanctuary. 1,800 square feet of floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city skyline. Purchased with money I'd earned working 60-hour weeks for 3 years while Noel cycled through failed business ventures. These were funded by our parents' seemingly bottomless generosity. "Your brother needs a proper home to start his family," my mother had insisted minutes earlier, cornering me by the dessert table. "You're just one person, Victoria. Be reasonable." "No," I'd replied, my voice steady despite the trembling in my hands. "The penthouse is mine. I bought it. I pay for it. Noel and Grace can find their own place." That's when my father had stepped in, face flushed from too much champagne and decades of unquestioned authority. "This isn't a request, Victoria. Your brother is the man of the family now." The man of the family, of course. Even after Noel's cryptocurrency startup had imploded spectacularly last month, taking his investors' money with it, he remained the golden child. "The answer is still no," I'd replied, keeping my voice low. "And if you bring this up again, I'm leaving." That's when he slapped me. Now, standing in the shocked silence of the reception hall, I straightened my spine. I looked my father directly in the eye and smiled. Something in that smile made him take a half step back. "You'll regret this," I said, my voice carrying in the silence. "All of you will." I turned and walked out, heels clicking against marble like a metronome counting down to retribution. Behind me, whispers erupted like fire through dry brush. My mother called after me, not concerned about my well-being, but about what the country club members would say. In my car, I finally released the tears, but they weren't born of sadness. A lifetime of being the responsible one, the reliable one, the one who never asked for handouts. And this was my reward? Public humiliation because I wouldn't surrender my home to my freeloading brother? My phone vibrated with incoming messages. "Mom, come back inside. You're embarrassing us." Noelle, "Don't be dramatic, sis. We can talk about this." Grace, "Your brother deserves that penthouse more than you." Dad, "You will give Noel the keys tomorrow. This isn't a discussion." I switched off my phone and drove. Not home. I couldn't face the penthouse right now. Instead, I headed to the coffee shop where I'd spent countless hours coding and planning my future. My sanctuary before I could afford the penthouse. The barista, Kyle, took one look at my face and brought over my usual order without asking. "Bad day?" "My father slapped me at my brother's wedding because I wouldn't give them my penthouse," I said, surprising myself with how calm I sounded. Kyle's eyes widened. "Your penthouse? The one you worked 3 years of overtime to buy?" I nodded, sipping my coffee. "Apparently my brother needs it more than I do. He's the man of the family, after all." "That's insane," Kyle said, sliding a chocolate muffin across the table. "On the house, you look like you need it." As twilight painted the sky outside the cafe window, a plan crystallized in my mind. My family thought they could bully me into submission. They thought I'd surrender everything I'd worked for. They had no idea what I was capable of. I opened my laptop and began typing. Emails to my lawyer and financial advisor, code commits to my private GitHub repository, and finally a call to my real estate agent. "Remember that oceanfront property we discussed?" I asked when she answered. "I'm ready to make an offer." By the time I finished my coffee, the foundation of my revenge was laid. My family wanted to take my home? Let them try. But they were about to learn that the quiet, accommodating daughter they took for granted had vanished the moment my father's hand met my cheek. This was war, and I intended to win. The next morning, my parents showed up at my penthouse unannounced. My father stormed past the doorman, who'd already called to warn me they were coming. I met them at my door dressed in my best power suit, laptop in hand. "Where are you going?" my mother demanded as I locked my door. "We need to talk about what happened." "Work," I replied simply, walking past them toward the elevator. "Some of us actually have jobs." "Don't you dare take that tone," my father growled, grabbing my arm. "After your behavior yesterday—" I yanked my arm away, my voice ice cold. Touch me again, and I'll have security escort you out. And yes, I have video of yesterday's assault. The country club's cameras caught everything." That stopped them both short. My mother's face paled. "You wouldn't." "Try me." The elevator arrived and I stepped in. "Oh, and change the locks all you want. I've already moved everything valuable to secure storage." The doors closed on their shocked faces. I waited until I was in my car before letting out a shaky breath. Phase 1 of my plan was in motion. Over the next week, I ignored their calls and messages, which grew increasingly hostile. Noel sent flying monkeys, mutual friends and relatives trying to reason with me. Grace posted passive-aggressive social media updates about selfish people who don't support family. I stayed silent and kept working. What they didn't know was that I'd been preparing for something like this for years. Not this exact scenario. I never expected my father to actually hit me. But I'd always known they'd try to take what was mine eventually. That's why I had receipts for everything. Every penny I'd earned, every bill I'd paid, every improvement I'd made to the penthouse. I had security cameras in every room, backup codes for every lock, and most importantly, I had leverage. You see, during those years of being the responsible daughter, I'd also been the family tech support. I'd set up everyone's computers, phones, and email accounts. I had access to everything, including Noel's business records. I had created backdoor admin accounts on all their devices years ago, and they'd never thought to change passwords or check for secondary access points. As their IT person, I'd kept copies of all access credentials. This gave me a window into Noel's business dealings even after he thought he'd secured his accounts. On day 10 of radio silence, my mother tried a new approach. She showed up at my office with tears in her eyes. "Your father is sorry," she said, settling uninvited into the chair across from my desk. "He was just upset. You know how he gets when he's worried about Noel." Worried about Noel? I kept typing, not looking up. Or worried about what Noel's investors might do when they find out where their money really went. Her sharp intake of breath told me I'd hit a nerve. "I don't know what you're talking about," she said carefully. "No?" I finally looked at her. "So you don't know about the offshore accounts? The shell companies? The consulting fees Noel paid to Dad's business?" The color drained from her face. "How did you—" "I'm very good at what I do, Mom. Did you really think I wouldn't notice when Noel used my old coding projects in his crypto startup that failed? The code had my digital signature embedded in it. I could trace exactly how he'd repurposed my work." "It wasn't a scam," she protested weakly. "He just made some mistakes." "Fraud isn't a mistake. It's a crime." I turned my laptop around, showing her the documents I'd compiled, and Dad helped him do it. She stared at the screen, her hands trembling. "What do you want?" "I want to be left alone. No more demands, no more flying monkeys, no more social media drama. The penthouse is mine. End of discussion." "And if we refuse?" I smiled, the same smile I'd given them at the wedding. "Then these documents go to the SEC, along with the video of Dad assaulting me. I'm sure the investors would be very interested in where their money went." "You'd destroy your own family?" Her voice cracked. "You did that when you demanded I give up my home, when Dad hit me, when Noel smirked about it." I turned the laptop back around. "I'm done being the family doormat." She left without another word, but I knew this wasn't over. They'd be angry, desperate even. But I had one more card to play. That evening, I received a call from my real estate agent. The oceanfront property, a luxury apartment complex I'd been eyeing for months, was mine. My tech career had been exceptionally lucrative, and I'd been investing carefully for years. I had built a portfolio that had grown substantial enough to secure financing for the property, the same complex where Noel and Grace had been hoping to rent their dream apartment. I logged into my private GitHub repository and pushed the final changes to my latest project, a property management system I'd been developing on the side. The same system Noel had tried to steal for his failed startup. My phone buzzed with a text from Noel. "Mom told me what you're doing. You can't prove anything." I smiled, sending back a single screenshot of his private server logs. His next message came quickly. What do you want? Distance, I replied. Complete and total. No contact, no demands, no family obligations. The penthouse and my life are off limits. And if I refuse, then I own your dream apartment complex, have proof of your financial misconduct, and enough documentation to bury both you and Dad. Your choice. The typing indicator appeared and disappeared several times before his response came through. You've changed? No, I wrote back. I just stopped pretending to be who you wanted me to be. I put my phone on silent and walked out onto my penthouse balcony, watching the city lights flicker to life. The sun was setting on the family I'd known, but I felt lighter than I had in years. Sometimes the best revenge isn't about destroying your enemies. It's about finally, truly becoming yourself. 3 months after the wedding incident, I sat in my penthouse living room, sipping coffee and reviewing tenant applications for my oceanfront complex. The property was proving to be an excellent investment, especially after I implemented my management system. My phone buzzed with a notification. Noel and Grace had been evicted from their luxury rental after failing to pay rent for 2 months. I had set up automatic alerts for their unit in my property management system, so I received notifications about their payment status. I wasn't surprised. Without Dad's financial support, which had dried up since my revelations about their financial misconduct, they were finally facing reality. A knock at my door interrupted my thoughts. Through the security camera, I saw my father standing there, looking older than I remembered. For a moment, I considered ignoring him, but curiosity won out. What do you want? I asked through the intercom. 5 minutes, Victoria, please. I opened the door but didn't invite him in. He stood there, shifting uncomfortably, his usual confidence nowhere to be seen. Noel and Grace are moving back home, he said finally. The apartment. They couldn't afford it. I know. I own the building. His head snapped up, eyes widening. You? But how? Because I'm good at what I do, Dad. I always was. You just never noticed. He seemed to deflate, leaning against the doorframe. Your mother misses you. We all do. No, I corrected him. You miss having someone to push around, someone to sacrifice everything for Noel. That person doesn't exist anymore. I was wrong, he said quietly, about everything. The slap, the demands, protecting Noel. I've lost everything because of it. It was true. After my threats of exposure, he'd been forced to step down from his company's board. I'd learned this through business contacts in my professional network, who forwarded me the press release about his early retirement. His reputation in the business community was in tatters, though I'd never actually released the documents. The threat had been enough. You haven't lost everything, I said. You still have your golden child. Isn't that what matters? Victoria, please. We're family. Family? I laughed. Family doesn't demand someone give up their home. Family doesn't hit you in public. Family doesn't smirk while watching it happen. He flinched at each point, but I wasn't done. You know what I realized after the wedding? I've never needed any of you. Every success I've had, every achievement, was in spite of you, not because of you. I know, he whispered. I know that now. I studied him. This man who'd loomed so large in my life, who'd seemed so powerful and intimidating. Now he just looked small. 5 minutes are up, I said, starting to close the door. Wait. He reached into his jacket and pulled out an envelope. Your mother wanted you to have this. It's an invitation to her birthday dinner next week. We would really like you to come. I took the envelope but didn't open it. I'll think about it. After he left, I sat on my balcony, turning the invitation over in my hands. Part of me wanted to throw it away to maintain the distance I'd worked so hard to establish, but another part, a stronger part, knew that true victory wasn't in perpetual estrangement. It was in having the power to choose my own terms. The following week, I did attend my mother's birthday dinner. I arrived late and left early, speaking little but observing much. Noel and Grace sat in sullen silence, their designer clothes replaced by department store brands. My father stayed sober, watching his words carefully. My mother tried too hard, her smile brittle with anxiety. They were all walking on eggshells, afraid of the power I now held. but I had no interest in wielding it like a weapon. Instead, I used it as a shield, protecting the life I'd built for myself. Over the following months, a new family dynamic emerged. They learned to respect my boundaries, to accept that I wouldn't be their safety net anymore. Noel and Grace found modest jobs and a small apartment they could actually afford. My father stayed involved but distant, sending occasional emails about business opportunities he thought might interest me. My mother took longer to adjust, still trying to play peacemaker, still hoping for the daughter she'd always wanted me to be. But eventually, she too learned to accept the woman I actually was. 1 year after the wedding, I hosted a small dinner party in my penthouse, not for family, but for the people who truly supported me. Kyle from the coffee shop, who'd given me space to plan my revenge over countless cups of coffee. He had since become my boyfriend after months of growing closer through regular coffee dates. My real estate agent, who'd helped me secure my newest investment. My lawyer, who'd protected my interests without question. As we enjoyed dinner on my balcony, watching the sunset paint the city gold, Kyle raised his glass. "To Victoria," he said, "who turned a slap into an empire." I smiled, thinking about how that moment of public humiliation had led to this, not just financial success, but true independence, the ability to set boundaries, to demand respect, to live life on my own terms. Sometimes the best revenge isn't about getting even, it's about getting better, stronger, wiser. And sometimes it's about learning that the family you choose can be more valuable than the family you're born into. I raised my glass to join the toast, finally at peace with all of it. The slap, the demands, the aftermath. They had tried to take my home, but instead, they'd given me my freedom. And that was worth more than any penthouse. My relationship with my family would never return to what it was before. We maintained a distant formal connection with clear boundaries that they now respected. I'd forgiven them enough to allow limited contact, but would never again allow them the power to hurt me. That chapter was permanently closed.